Hello, my name is Kia Wilson, and today I will be discussing how we can use asset-based approach to support English learners while also building a meaningful connections between home and school. When I think about an asset-based approach, I think about focusing on what students already bring into the classroom instead of starting with what they cannot do in English. Our ELL students bring their home languages, cultures, family experiences, interests, and knowledge with them, and those are strengths that we can build on. Fisher and Frey 2020 explained that culturally responsive teaching helps move educators away from a defective-based approach and toward recognizing the assets students already possess. Cultural responsive teaching. Culture influences learning in many ways. It can affect how students communicate, interact with adults, work with peers, respond to classroom expectations, and connect new information to what they already know. Woolflock 2013 explains that students' backgrounds, experiences, and individual differences influence learning. Because of this, I think we have to take time to actually know our students instead of making assumptions about them based on their culture or their language. Cultural competency means being aware that my students' experiences and beliefs may be different from those of my own, and being willing to learn from those differences. For an ELL teacher, that could mean learning about students' family traditions, communication styles, languages, and previous educational experiences. I can bring those cultural values into instruction through books, examples, visuals, and activities that represent the students I teach. I can also give students the opportunities to make connections between lessons and their own lives. Fisher and Frey point out that students deserve to see themselves and their experiences represented in the curriculum. For a classroom environment, it is also important for language development. Learning another language requires students to take risks, and they may be less willing to do that if they are afraid of being embarrassed or for making mistakes. I want to create an environment where mistakes are viewed as part of learning. Cooperative learning, supportive peer partnership, sentence frames, visuals, wait time, and different ways to participate can help create that type of environment. Another important piece is recognizing the student's home language is an asset. I would not want a student to feel like they have to stop using their first language in order to become a successful English language speaking person. They could brainstorm in their home language before writing anything in English, using bilingual resources and making connections between words in both languages, or discuss an idea with the same language peer before sharing with the class. Supporting the needs of ELL students. I also think we have to remember that ELL students are not all the same. Two students may both be classified as English learners, but they have completely different strengths and needs. One student may have recently arrived to the United States. Another may have been learning English for several years, and another ELL student may also have a disability or be gifted. Because of this, support needs to be individualized. A beginning English learner might need pictures, gestures, modeling, sentence frames, and extra processing time. A more proficient student may need opportunities to explain their thinking, defend their answer, or use academic vocabulary in conversations. For ELL students with special needs, I would be careful not to automatically assume that difficulty with English means the student has a disability. I would look at multiple sources and information, including language proficiency, academic progress, classroom observations, their family input, and the supports that the student already had received. We also cannot separate learning from a student's social and emotional needs. Woolflock discusses that the importance of motivation, relationships, and supportive learning environments. An ELL student may understand more than they can communicate in English, which can become frustrating. Fisher and Frey also explains that ELL students may have difficulty expressing emotions such as anxiety and confusion while they are still developing English. One strategy that I really like is using emotional cards with pictures and including the words in the students' home languages. That gives students another way to communicate how they are feeling. Understanding these needs is also important when establishing routines. I cannot assume that a student who recently entered my classroom automatically understands how everything works. I would explicitly model and practice routines using visual schedules, provide consistent expectations. Predictability can help students feel more comfortable and allow them to focus more on the attention of learning. Home and school connections. Family and community knowledge is another important asset. The term funds of knowledge refers to the knowledge, skills, experiences, and practices students develop through their families and communities. For example, a student may have learned measurement through cooking with a family member, math through helping with the family business, storytelling through a family tradition, or responsibility through caring for younger siblings. A multilingual student may even have experiences translating or interpreting for family members. Those experiences should not be ignored just because they happened outside the school. Building strong family partnerships starts with communication. One of the first things that I want to do and want to know is that how family prefers to communicate and what language they most are comfortable using. If a family needs an interpreter or translated materials, those supports should be provided rather than expected the child to translate important information from school. I also do not want my first contact with the family to happen because something went wrong. I think sending positive messages, sharing student success, and asking families what they noticed about their child's strengths can help build that trust. Family involvement also does not have to look the same for every family. Some families may attend school events while others may not be able to because of work schedules or transportation, childcare, and other responsibilities. That does not mean that they do not care about their child's education. Schools can provide flexible meeting options, translate communication, virtual participation, and different ways for families to contribute. Community partnerships can also be valuable. Schools can work with libraries, community organizations, cultural organizations, local businesses, and other groups families already trust. Fisher and Frey provide an example of parents, educators, and religious leaders from the Muslim community serving as informal advisors for schools and initiatives. I like that example because the school was not simply deciding what families needed, they were actually including the community members in the conversation. Overall, an asset-based approach changes the way we look at English learners. Instead of asking, what is the student missing? I think about what we should be asking. What does the student already bring to your classroom, and how can we build on it? A student's home language, culture, family experiences, and community knowledge should never be viewed as obstacles to overcome. They are resources that we can use to help students learn. As a future teacher, I want my ELL students to know that they do not have to learn part of who they are at the classroom door. I want them to feel comfortable in sharing their language and culture while also developing their English language skills. When we build relationships with students and families and maintain high expectations, provide the right supports, and recognize the strengths of students already possesses, we create a classroom where ELL learners can feel like they truly belong. Thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.